Hey guys, in this video we're gonna be talking about the AH-64E Guardian, a new end-of-the-line helicopter for the US. What you are getting is essentially a straight-up improvement over the AH-64D Longbow we already have in-game. You retain the same style of gameplay while including more powerful engines, expanded ordnance with the new JAGM IR or laser-guided missile, which they are improved range Hellfires that are also slightly faster past 5 kilometers, wingtip LDIRCM and missile approach warning systems. In case you don't know, LDIRCM essentially dazzles incoming hit seekers by blinding the enemy seeker, which is a system we already had in the Russian Mi-28NM and the Chinese Z-10MA. About the general playstyle of the helicopter, I found its best role to be dealing with anti-airs, which I will talk about how to deal with them a bit later on. Sadly, you aren't as versatile as the Mi-28NM or Z-10MA since you are very bad versus planes, because about the loadout, since you lose the wingtip stingers as a trade-off for that extra survivability, you are gonna be very vulnerable to enemy planes. It is true you can carry 2 stingers on the outer pylons, but in my opinion it's not worth it really, since this helicopter really shines at suppressing the air defenses, since you have 16 fire and forget long range missiles, and you're gonna need as many as you can to fulfill your specific role. I also find it to be really bad against enemy helicopters, since for starters, IR JAGM missile, even if they have extended range, the Seeker is gonna struggle a lot of times to track enemies past 7 or even 8 kilometers depending on the weather conditions, so you're gonna be required to get close to the enemy helipad, which is an insane risk nowadays. And the Mi-28NM or the Z-10MA, which are gonna be the most common helicopters you're gonna encounter, specifically the Mi-28, both of them have also LDIRCM, so they will simply dazzle your JAGM without any trouble. If you wanna deal with enemy helicopters, you're gonna need the laser-guided JAGM, but again, I don't really think this is a good choice, since, well, first, they are very slow, and you're gonna be required to maintain lock on the target for almost 30 seconds until they reach there, which, at the same time, it's really just a waste of time, since all that time you could have been just launching fire and forget missiles, or just spend time rearming and getting more missiles at the base. And second of all, they've also nerfed the tracking on helicopters, which means that most times you're gonna struggle to get a solid track with your sights, meaning that you will have to manually maintain the laser designator on top of the target, so that's almost impossible to do when they're doing defensive maneuvers. It's just overall not worth it in my opinion. Which means that for me, I've been running 16 IR guided JAGMs all the time and just spamming them against ground targets over and over. Against MBTs, they hit pretty hard, they are essentially similar to the Hellfire penetration, but the guidance on the missile on the IR version of it is gonna usually aim at parts of the tank that are not gonna kill them, so it's gonna require you to launch multiple missiles at the same target just to increase the chances of actually one of them aiming center of mass or weak spots, where the JAGM will simply shred through the whole interior. And the key aspect of your gameplay is gonna be dealing with anti-air. Right now they are very powerful, I am aware, and they will have no trouble intercepting a friendly aircraft, but you as a helicopter are probably gonna deal with them without having as many problems. So most of the time, for starters, if you wanna find where the anti-air is lurking, I would suggest you launch a JAGM towards the battlefield aimed at no one really, just make the JAGM fly towards the battlefield, and if they try to intercept it, which they most likely will, you're gonna be able to see where the missile was launched from, and after that all you're gonna need is to launch as many JAGMs as you need until one of them passes through their missile shield and are gonna kill them. Even the most aware anti-air players are gonna have it almost impossible to intercept all your 16 missiles, and even if that was the case, you can always rearm after firing them over and over until they are exhausted and out of missiles. And last thing you are gonna need to know is how to deal with the anti-air once they find you. You need to know that there's 3 types of anti-airs currently. The ones that use IR missiles like the German SLM or the Chinese CS-SA-5. There's also fire and forget active radar homing missiles like the Buck or the Sky Saber, and finally SACLOS missiles like the Panzer or the Ito. Against infrared ammunition, your LDIRCM will dazzle the Seeker and the missile will miss all the time, but this is very important. Those missiles on the SLM and the CS-SA-5 also have data link and IOG guidance, which means that even if you blind the Seekers, sometimes they will also rely on the anti-air radar to track you after they launch it. So you're gonna need to lose line of sight with the enemy radar so that it doesn't guide the missile. Against active radar homing, this might sound something stupid, but you are gonna need to notch the missile. I'm aware this is not a helicopter concept, but you'll be fine. Just start a small dive, trying to face 90 degrees away from the missile while deploying some chaff, and they will miss you all the time. It's extremely easy to do it in a helicopter. And probably the most disgusting anti-airs and your top priority are gonna be the Saklos, especially the Panzer. If there's one of them, you're gonna need to stay at treetop level, duck behind cover if the moment they launch. You're not gonna be able to fool their missile with your countermeasures or other systems, so you're gonna need to launch as many JAGMs as you can while they are not aware you are there. And the moment they spot you, just duck behind cover, reposition, launch more JAGMs and repeat. Hey guys, that was it for today's video. Make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts about the Guardian and make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done yet. Have a nice day and see you next video.